My parents were so mad I got the vaccine, they made me pay them $90,000. Here's what happened. Subscribe to AmITheA on YouTube and hit the bell for notifications. So my parents are complete anti-vaxxer Karens and Darrens. We're talking full-on vaccines cause autism and coronavirus was invented by Bill Gates to mind control us all with spike proteins, horseplay guzzling types with no sense of personal responsibility or empathy for others. I repeatedly watched them get kicked out of businesses for refusing to wear a mask. And my Karen mother even had a meltdown in a grocery store that I'm surprised wasn't recorded and blasted all over the internet. But that's not what this is about. The problem came when I, non-binary 24-year-old, got the vaccine for work. My job is me dealing with a lot of people, and a large amount of them are elderly, pregnant, or immune compromised. I figured I'd just get it and not tell them since I live about an hour away in the next state over, and at the time only visited them once a week on my day off. After my second shot, I got a little sick, and while laid up in bed, I called my sister, who lives 4 hours away, because it was her birthday. During the conversation, I mentioned that I'd gotten the vaccine. Unbeknownst to me, my Karen mother was in the car with her during a visit I didn't know about, and heard every word. She proceeds to have a 5-alarm meltdown at my sister's house, saying that I'm gonna die while my sister gives me a play-by-play via text. When my mother returned at the end of the week, she called me and told me that I'm no longer allowed over at her house unless I take these supplements she got off Facebook to stop spike proteins, and that I'm not allowed to visit my brother, who's 39 and lives 2 states over, or his kids. At this point, I'd had enough of her crap, and I told her my health is none of her business, and whether or not I can visit is my brother's decision, not hers. She exploded and I hung up the phone. An important thing to note here is that the car I drive, a used Prius, technically belongs to my grandparents. After my grandmother had a stroke and got in a car crash, a minor one where no one was injured, thank God, they decided to give me the car since I needed one, and told my dad to make that happen since he had power of attorney. He agreed to do it in exchange for $2.5K that he'd put towards the $90K plus parent loan that he has from my college. I gave him $600 a month in addition to paying my own loans to help, since it's a lot of money even though his salary's around $200K and I make $17 an hour. Midway through my exile, I decided to try and be the bigger person and clear things up with my mom. I invited her out to lunch to listen to her concerns and establish some boundaries for the both of us so we can move on with our relationship. I know that sounds dumb, but I thought since she gave birth to me, I could reason with her, and we could talk it out like adults. That didn't happen. The entire lunch, she treated me like I was diseased. She wouldn't touch or hug me, and kept her food as far away from me as possible. When I broached the subject of apologizing and patching this up, she launches into a tirade about how she will not compromise or walk on eggshells around me. For no reason, she drags my sexuality into it. I've been openly queer since I was a teen, and while they're not openly disapproving, they still avoid the topic like the plague. I never told them I was non-binary because I knew how they'd react, and said since it makes her uncomfortable, and I needed psychological help. That was my last straw. I said goodbye, walked away from the table, and decided to go non-contact while I grieved and made up a plan for how to move forward. Fast forward a few weeks when I went to renew my tabs and made an appointment to renew my license. They get sent to my parents' house because my dad still holds the title. Since I still had limited contact with my dad, I asked him about it, and we agreed to get the car title settled. I tell him I'll go anywhere but the house to do it, because I didn't want to face mom while I was still angry and say something to her that I'd regret. He kept moving the time and place around until last night. He called and finally said either I come to the house to confront them or he'll call the police. I remind him that they both forbade me from going back to the house, and I crap you not, he went full gaslight and says, "No, we did not. You're making stuff up." I tell him I'm not going to your house, and that's when he told me I needed to come back for the title paperwork and to sign a promissory note. I asked him what the promissory note is for, and he told me it's an agreement to pay the Parent Plus loan back to him. He literally said it was the only leverage he had over me, and if I didn't sign, I wasn't getting the car. I told him it wasn't my loan, and he got really angry and called me a bunch of names. He ended the conversation by telling me either I show up at the house or forfeit the free car. I asked for my $2.5K back then, and he told me to screw off. After a night of crying, I called my sister and made a plan to close the account my dad has access to, and just get a different car with the money I have in my savings and leave my grandparents' car and keys in their driveway while they're gone, and just mail them some money each month for the loan without a return address. A used Prius is not worth signing my life away to some entitled jerks. Wow, yeah, these parents are a piece of work. I can't imagine growing up in a house like this. There seems to be a lot of manipulation going on, not to mention the amount of false information they seem to take in. Why is it always these people that do all of these things? It's never a nice person that buys into conspiracy theories and refuses to wear masks. It's always a jerk or a Karen. This is always how they behave. There's gotta be some common link here, right? But I agree with our original poster, and I think they did what's best. You just cut that toxicity out of your life. You sound like you've really tried to be the bigger person and make it work. And if they're not willing to give even a little, then they don't deserve to have you in their lives. If they're bringing you nothing but misery, then you're just better off without them. You can submit your own stories to be featured here on the channel. The story submission link is in the description below. And if you want to listen to some vibey music in the background, check out easymode, also linked below. And don't forget to subscribe. Lifeguard insists I need to be wearing a bra even after I explain to him that I've had a double mastectomy. This happened last week. I was swimming laps at an indoor pool near my house. I'm a woman who's had a double mastectomy without reconstruction. My chest is flat. I'm totally comfortable with how I look, but prefer my scars to be covered in public. As far as swimming goes, women's suits have extra material to accommodate typical chests, so when I wear them, they're baggy. For backyard swimming, I just use a couple of safety pins to keep it in place. For lap swimming, it balloons up like a parachute full of water and creates so much drag that it's difficult to swim. Tight competition swimsuits don't have enough coverage for the way the scars wrap around my sides under my arms. To get around this, I wear running shorts and a tight-fitting, full-coverage synthetic fabric dark-colored tank top. It works great. Last week, I was approached as I left the pool facility by a worker. He said that they had received a complaint that a woman in the pool was wearing a shirt, which is allowed, but no sports bra underneath. He then said their policy requires women who are not in swimsuits to have sports bras under their shirt. He told me that the policy started when they had a problem where a woman would come in and swim and only wear a thin white shirt and no bra in the pool during family hours. I explained politely that I've had a double mastectomy and don't need a bra. I said that swimsuits don't fit me, and my top is very dark and not see-through. Plus, even if it was see-through, all they would see would be scars. He said he understood and felt bad, but the management requires that the dress code be followed. I explained how I was much more covered up than anyone else in the pool, and in fact was wearing what he was minus the whistle. He was in shorts and a tank top. There were guys in there with just tight-fitting swim bottoms on, and women in bikinis. I look Amish next to them. He said again he was sorry, but couldn't make an exception to the rules. I asked for the rules in writing, and he gave me a printout which did say what he was telling me. This brings us to yesterday. I dug a sports bra out of a bin of old clothes and brought it with me. I wore the same shorts and top otherwise. When I got in the water, I put the band of the bra around my head with the straps sticking up like bunny ears. People in the other lanes got a kick out of it once I explained what I was doing. I started warming up with my kickboard, thinking the guy would come over and we would sort this nonsense out. Well, a lady in business clothes comes over and tells me I need to take the bra off my head. I would like to say here that this was an adult lap swim. There were no kids in the pool area. I explained it all to her and said I was following the rule to the letter. I was wearing a bra, which is all that's required. We went back and forth with her saying I knew it had to be worn normally. I said I couldn't wear it the way others do because I don't have anything to fill it, and it would ride up to my chin while swimming without anything to to hold it in place. She said I could use skin-safe glue. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna glue unnecessary garments to my body, and I told her as much. I finally said that unless she could state the rule I was breaking, that I would like to continue with my workout, so I could get home to my kids and let the babysitter go home. She walked away. I swam for an hour with that bra perched on my head. Lots of readjusting and once retrieving it from the bottom of the pool. I then showered and went home. This morning I checked my email, which is linked to my membership at the aquatic center, to find a message from her. They will not be changing their policies, but I've been granted a special exception to the rule provided I continue to wear non-see-through tops. I wish they would have just gotten rid of the silly bra rule, but I'll take this. And if I ever see another woman struggling with their swimsuit over a flat chest, I'll let them know they can wear something more comfortable. Okay, so first off, I can understand why this rule was put into place and why they feel the need to enforce something like this. The woman swimming in a see-through top during family hours is just not appropriate. However, I think it's pretty obvious that an exception to the rule is required here with our original poster. Thankfully, that is what it finally came down to, but it shouldn't have been such a big deal along the way. Rules do exist for a reason, but exceptions should be made where they make sense. And I do believe that is the case with our original poster. Sounds like she's had a hard enough time, and is just trying to enjoy her exercise. For obvious reasons, things aren't gonna work the same way for her as with other women when it comes to bras. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Yes, there's a rule in writing that contradicts this, but sometimes you just need to use your head. My entitled daughter called our housemaid filthy and tried to set her up to make it look like she was stealing. So I made her sleep outside. I'm a 46-year-old male. My daughter, 16, is a high school junior. I noticed recently that she's been behaving in a bad manner, constantly commenting on other people's looks, belongings, calling them stuff that isn't cool, and just being insensitive. It's like she lost a filter or something, because usually she's polite, but my wife suspects that our daughter's sudden misbehavior occurred after she started hanging out with new girls from the school, basically the mean type, and have picked up their behavior. I've sat with my daughter and had many discussions about how her behavior has been negatively affecting everyone around her. Our housemaid is the person most affected here, and my daughter has chosen her to be her target for hair, clothes, and etiquette criticism. She's complained about our daughter calling her offensive names, like filthy and gross, for cleaning certain areas in our house. I took a stand and explicitly told my daughter I'd punish her if she ever said stuff like that to our housemaid again. Last week, my daughter had a party to go to. Earlier that day, she called our housemaid filthy, so I grounded her by not letting her go to the party. She threw a fit and called our housemaid a liar, saying she never called her that, and that was the end of it. Days later, my daughter came to see me saying she couldn't find her iPhone after looking everywhere. She asked me to call her number, and I did. My wife and I were stunned to discover that the iPhone was ringing inside our housemaid's bag. I had a confrontation with her immediately, and she denied it and cried, saying she never touched the phone, nor had any idea how it got there. I noticed my daughter calling her thief repeatedly, so I told her to stop and go to her room. I checked the indoor camera before continuing the argument and saw my daughter place her iPhone inside our housemaid's bag. I was livid. I apologized to the housemaid and gave her the rest of the day off. I then showed the video to my daughter, and she was absolutely speechless. I said what she did was immoral and straight up offensive to tamper with that poor woman's livelihood over a petty party she couldn't go to. I told her she was grounded and will have to spend the night in the backyard. She's a germaphobe. She cried, begging me to not make her sleep with the dirt, insects, and hot temperature. I refused to discuss it or I'd make it 2 nights. My wife said I should go easy on her, but I said calling people filthy and accusing them of stealing wasn't okay. In fact, it was the absolute worst. I followed through with my punishment. Yeah, this girl needed a reality check. I don't know what mean girl type she's hanging out with at her new school that makes her think this kind of behavior's okay, but I think she missed the point of that movie. People don't like the mean girls, and they always get what's coming to them. You think you're all high and mighty and hot stuff, but in reality, you're not popular and no one wants anything to do with you. Calling the housemaid filthy for cleaning your house for you when she's there to do her job and that's your mess she's cleaning up is kinda backwards when you think about it. If you were so clean yourself, you wouldn't even need a housemaid. I think our original poster did a good job at humbling their daughter here. It needed to happen. Entitled mom yells at my disabled friend for not being disabled enough. So a few years ago, a bunch of my friends and I went to see Anastasia on Broadway. It was amazing and a ton of fun, but also led to this encounter. During intermission, a bunch of us went to get in line for the bathrooms. One of my friends, M, had osteosarcoma in her leg when she was younger, and as a result, has a metal rod instead of her bone, and walks with a noticeable limp. There was a line for disabled people and families, and M and her mom got in line. A few people behind them, an older lady was pushing like a full-body wheelchair. I don't know the technical name, sorry. With, I'm assuming, her severely disabled daughter. She was in the process of yelling at everyone in front of her because her daughter deserved to be at the front of the line. M's mom is not the kind to be pushed around, and she told the woman that M was disabled too, and she could wait her turn. The woman went ballistic and yelled, "Your daughter's not disabled! Stop effing lying!" This went on for a bit, where the woman would yell at M for not being disabled, and M's mom would stand her ground and tell the woman that she was not moving, and that her and her daughter could wait just like everyone else. Eventually, they came out of the bathroom, and M was in tears at that point. M is one of the sweetest people I know, and there's no way she deserved to be yelled at for not being disabled when she doesn't even have a bone in one of her legs because they removed it because of cancer. Unfortunately, this lady seems to suffer from main character syndrome. She doesn't seem to understand that other people have issues too. And while your daughter may have a lot of issues, there are still other people in this world. I'm sure a lot of the time people are very accommodating for her and her daughter, and that might be the problem here. She's come to expect that from everyone around her, not realizing that there are other people that need to take care of themselves too sometimes. In this case, it's just a matter of waiting an extra few minutes to get to the bathroom. It's really not worth acting like a jerk. I forbid my teen from going to the dance because I need her to babysit and she's my only option. My kids are Bindi, 17, Ava, 14, and Fritz, 9. I'll cut right to the problem. My sisters and I are going for an overnight trip later this month. With my oldest sister's work schedule, the only time we can go for the foreseeable future is the 29th. This has been planned for several weeks. Bindi announced to me this week that her school's doing a Halloween dance on the 29th. She was so excited and was excitedly planning her costume. I hated to burst her bubble, but I had to tell her she can't go. You see, Fritz is severely autistic, exactly what you're probably thinking. He's nonverbal, no eye contact, no toilet training, that sort of thing. This makes him much more difficult to leave with someone than his sisters ever were. I could easily find a sitter for them when they were younger. The only people who will even take care of Fritz outside of our household are his grandparents, who can't watch him that weekend. He also does well with Bindi, meaning she's literally our only option. Bindi didn't take it well and asked me why Ava can't watch him for a few hours while she's at the dance, since Ava has babysat before. Well, Ava's having surgery the Monday before that. Nothing major, but she's not going to be healed up enough to deal with one of her brother's meltdowns by Friday. I'm not saying that would happen, but it's always a possibility with him. She can help, but someone else needs to be there, and that someone else is going to have to be Bindi. She responded by saying she didn't realize her siblings were so much more important than her, and went up to her room scowling. I've tried knocking and calling her, but she keeps sending me straight to voicemail. I get that she's upset and was really looking forward to this dance. It's only for juniors and seniors, and the school didn't have it last year thanks to COVID, but I'm gonna need her to make a small sacrifice for the family right now. I fully intend to make it up to her, but does expecting her to be there for family make me the jerk? I think the biggest issue here is you have one kid who's going to have surgery and another kid who has special needs, and you're going to go out of town for the weekend. I think you need to be the one to be there, not your 17-year-old daughter. You're the one that should be taking up the mantle of responsibility. She's 17. It's her job to go out and have fun and have a life and be with her friends. That responsibility you're asking her to take is the responsibility that you're shirking for a weekend away. I don't think there's any other way to look at this one. Definitely the jerk here. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to listen to some vibey music in the background, check out easymode. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.